it's about creating that surrounding experience that drives the value of your product. And to me, that's transferable from the sports front office into many different businesses.
What are the secrets that drive the businesses you love or nonprofits you admire? Join us as we uncover the surprising ideas at the intersection of causes and brands. I'm Dave Raley.
And I'm Carly Berna. Each episode, learn from leaders of nonprofits and companies that will give you insights that you can put into action. This is the Purpose and Profit Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Virtuous, the only responsive CRM that provides the fundraising, marketing, and volunteer tools you need to create personal connections with your donors and grow giving. Learn more at virtuous.org.
Welcome to the show today. Our guest is Justin McCord. He is a results-oriented storyteller and highly strategic leader who thrives in building teams and brands. He's an industry-leading marketer with more than a decade of guiding both commercial and nonprofit organizations to success. Justin started his career marketing one of the toughest jobs in marketing, minor league baseball. And later on, he was the director of marketing for the FC Dallas, a major soccer league team. He's worked for more than a dozen years in the nonprofit space today, helping nonprofit organizations to grow. He oversees brand management today for RKD and as well as content marketing and the award-winning Group Thinkers podcast. Justin is also a regular speaker and contributor to nonprofit marketing events, helping to shine a light on current challenges and progressive strategies to align channels and improve connection. Justin, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to be with you, Carly. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you all today. And I got to say, it's never not weird to hear someone introduce you.
You're like, can we do the bio separately? That's, no, it's just helpful. I think, when we talk, Carly and I talk about the show and purpose and profit and bringing the right people to the table, there's such a diversity of perspectives and backgrounds. And so I am excited about the conversation today. It's going to be good. So let's start with just right up front, Justin. I mean, what got you into the world of sports marketing in the first place? And then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so my first gig, 16-year-old, grew up in West Texas, and I was fortunate enough to start in radio, which is kind of a odd place for a 16-year-old to start. But at my small town, West Texas country radio station, was afforded the opportunity to be an on-air DJ all through high school, and that took me into college with the aspiration of working in broadcast. And through a series of incidents, had a chance to have a backstage visit with a former ESPN SportsCenter anchor. And, at 20, that would have been the dream gig. And so I had this chance to visit to someone that I truly looked up to, and he told me, "Kid, you don't want to do this. Like, that is not what you want to do with your life." And I was like, "Wow, okay, thanks, dude. We met for 10 seconds." And he explained to me why, it wasn't, maybe it was or wasn't the path that I want to go down. But I have always had such a passion for sports that it was like, okay, well, where can I apply my creativity and my sense of strategy into sports if it's not talking about sports? And it turned into opportunities to go into marketing and sales for sports, starting minor league baseball and then carrying over into Major League Soccer.
I love that because I'm a huge sports fan. So my dream was always to work for ESPN. And when I watch sports, I'm always trying to commentate better than the commentators. I was going to make a joke about Tom Brady there, but I won't. I'll leave that to the side. But so you worked in both minor league baseball and Major League Soccer, but it seemed like you were in a market that was super saturated by other teams like the Cowboys and the Mavericks. So how did you kind of break through some of that oversaturation to try to get attention on the brands that you were marketing?
Yeah, Carly, I really did cut my teeth in a very crowded market. And so this idea of creating differentiation has always been something that I've had to put brain power towards. So as you mentioned, starting my career with an ownership group that had 7 different minor league teams, I worked on 4 of the minor league teams. So on a short season single A team, on a single A team, double A team, and a triple A team. I was working on 4 different properties or brands at once, but based with a double A team in the Dallas Fort Worth area, where we had both like macro competitive challenges and micro competitive challenges. So when I think about the macro challenges, that was you're competing for attention and for the entertainment dollar against the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Mavericks, the Dallas Stars, and the Texas Rangers. And when you're a double A baseball team in that market, that is really challenging. And by the way, it was also at the initial peak or wave of some of the North Dallas suburbs being the fastest growing cities in America. So you had all of these people coming in, which you also had a tremendous amount of development in the area, which led to other competitors for the entertainment dollar. So at the micro level, we were competing with a new mall and new restaurants because it's all about that entertainment dollar, that share of wallet for an audience. And so it was interesting to understand that challenge and understand what it looks like to create differentiation in minor league baseball. And then when I moved to Major League Soccer, it was, same song, different verse in a way. Now, geographically, I moved like 5 miles in terms of from the baseball stadium to the soccer stadium. And different sport, which has all sorts of different nuances and complexities in the target demo. But the same need to differentiate was there, and so I was thinking about it, and I think that there are 3 things that come to mind that are applicable in sports and in business strategy in general around differentiation in a crowded space. And so I'm going to put them through the lens of sports things, if that's okay with you, Dave.
Oh, I would love to talk about sports, Justin.
Okay. All
As
right.
our
So
listeners who've heard previous seasons know, I'm the one that's always like, so what? Who is that athlete again?
all right. So I think that like in creating differentiation in a brand or in a business, one way that you can approach it is through like a standout player, right? And so you can definitely move the needle with a player signing. Like look at what Caitlin Clark is doing for attention and eyeballs on on the WNBA.
I know who
And
she is, by the way. Just
see, there you
saying.
go, right?
YouTube has helped me with that.
So names can move markets, right? It's almost like an acquisition offer in other businesses. Like you can identify and build out a name that can move a market. The funny thing about those is that they don't always translate into long term success or long term value. So that's the first. The second idea or principle is around a winning team, and so I had the opportunity to learn whenever I was in soccer of what it looked like to have a losing team and a winning team. And, there's some really interesting nuances to, when a team is performing on the field, that eliminates some barriers to entry for some people, right? That if you have a winning team, you're going to draw some attention. I remember the Texas Rangers in the mid 2000s, when they started winning, and they hadn't been winning for a long time, but when they started winning, they had their front office staff answer the phone with first place Texas Rangers. Like that was their greeting to people. And I think this principle of everyone likes to be on a winning team can help you stand out in a market. But again, it doesn't necessarily like lead to long-term value. And so that's where the thing that I'm very passionate about is the surrounding experience. And to me, creating differentiation, especially as a marketer, creating a surrounding experience is a controllable that you have that can move the needle and create long-term impact. So a good example is the Savannah Bananas, which are kind of the darlings of minor league baseball now and do a fantastic job of creating entertainment within their experience. So you're getting a high return on your investment as a family, taking your family to a game. And I know in my time in soccer, we worked really hard to bring soccer culture into the suburbs, which is, at times more failures than successes. But it's about creating that surrounding experience that drives the value of your product. And to me, that's transferable from the sports front office into many different businesses.
Yeah. When you think about, by the way, for the sports ball enthusiasts like me on the phone, Caitlin Clark, WNBA player. For those of you who don't know, definitely a media storm for sure. And then the Savannah Bananas, I had to look up, but I was like, oh, I've seen them. They're the guys that show up on like TikTok with the like silly videos and the like fun pranks on the field, right?
Yeah, and it's two different experiences there, right? Like the media storm around going to a game, a WNBA game right now, creates a lot of attention and sells a lot of jerseys. Doesn't create season ticket holders unless you're in Indiana, like it does there. But outside of that, you have to have something else. And so that's where I lean towards as the marketer, like what the Bananas do, which is a really weird sentence to say, by the way. But the way that they create something surrounding the thing so that it becomes a plus is a unique way to think about creating differentiation. And it doesn't always have to be, crazy uniforms and choreography.
Yeah. Well, and as I think about, filtering some of these lessons, right? You've got a standout player, and that might be depending on you're a nonprofit or a business, that may be actually a person that people are attracted to or already has an audience or builds an audience. You've got this idea of a winning team. So that's just momentum. People like to be a part of momentum. We won't talk about the Mariners because I have no idea how they're doing now. But I know over time in my city, the Mariners have been popular and then not as popular. And then that last piece is just they create differentiation. Would you say that third piece about differentiation is like the longest lasting piece, or is it just depends on the cards you're dealt?
Yes. It's both. It's both, right? Because like you can create differentiation through the experience without having a standout player or a winning team. You just have to work more creatively, right? In order to do that, you have to find, maybe it's that you have to find the wrinkles that attract your audience to your product. If you are absent a standout player in a winning team. So definitely possible.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So now, we know a lot of our listeners are in the nonprofit space, right? So you've worked in the nonprofit space now for more than a decade. So resources are tight. There's a different version of the sort of David and Goliath situation that nonprofits face, usually around resources. Sometimes it's around name awareness, right? So many of our nonprofit leaders are listening to this, feeling like, Justin of years ago in minor league baseball with the, Dallas Cowboys, right? Or the Texas Rangers. What are some of the things that you would say that you've seen that nonprofits have been able to do that have helped create impact despite having limited either awareness or budget? What are some things that stand out?
I think that there are so many transferable principles from that time in sports into especially today's landscape of nonprofit marketing. It's never been more competitive as a nonprofit. Maybe not that you're competing with other nonprofits, but to compete for mind share of your audience, it's never been more competitive. And arguably, Goliath's never been stronger in that sense. The surge of digital nativity over the last 5 years in particular. Now today's donor doesn't separate the moment in their day when they're a donor versus when they're a dad versus when they're a business owner versus
Consumer,
whatever it might be, right? And so like that fluidity creates more competition and greater challenges, and we've seen costs go up and all of those things. And so you try to think about, okay, well, how do you saturation isn't necessarily the right approach in high competition. Like you're not going to be able to outspend some for-profit organizations. So what is it that you do? And I think the thing that I come back to, and it is something that I learned through probably more failures than successes in soccer, and something that I learned through time in minor league baseball, is you really got to work on understanding your people. Like you really have to understand your audience, and then appropriate some level of budget to try new things towards that audience. So to give you an example, from my current gig, we in the last couple of years determined that we wanted to stand out from our market as a B2B company. And in order to stand out, I had to go to work on understanding our audiences, both the people that we currently work with and our employees and the people that we wanted to work with. And so we studied and analyzed every possible kind of wrinkle on them and developed an insight that turned into the hypothesis. And the hypothesis was that our audience is stuck, like they're stuck, and we wanted them to feel like we could help them get unstuck. And we wanted to be able to communicate that maybe in some ways we were a part of the reason why they were stuck in the first place. And so that was like this insight about the audience, insight about our position relative to the audience. And it required a lot of conversations and a lot of high trust by leadership to test something and to put real dollars towards it. And so, I didn't put a lot of dollars towards it. I put maybe like 1% of our budget towards a campaign in 2023. And that turned into a fairly significant LinkedIn viral effort where we saw people that were not associated with our company starting to spread our message into the ether. And I felt like that was capturing something when you can get your audience and even some of your competition saying the things that you're saying. It fast forwards you into a leadership position, and ultimately led to about a 10% bump in brand favorability year over year. So it was like, understand the audience, appropriate something to test it, and then lean in once you know that you've got some sort of sustainable growth lever there.
Is your faith-based organization searching for a leader who truly aligns with your mission? Faith Search Partners is the premier executive search firm dedicated to faith-driven organizations. With over 130 years of combined experience and a 98% success rate, they will guide you through every step of the process, ensuring that you find the right leader to drive your mission forward. Trust the experts who live their faith. Visit faithsearchpartners.com today to learn more.
Yeah, I think for nonprofits, that can be hard because it's like, how do you understand your donors? I know when I was in nonprofit, it was always really hard to try to convince like the board or the CEO to spend money on understanding your donors. But we eventually did do a survey of donors, and we asked a bunch of questions that we assumed we would know the answers to. And then, of course, we got surprising answers back about how they understood our brand. But like we paid to do that, but so a nonprofit listening could literally do like a Survey Monkey and like send it out as an email, get great information, and just like validate what you're thinking that your donor base is thinking about your brand.
Carly, I think my favorite way to capture people's feedback is open-ended. And I would even say, like, for a nonprofit who's tuned into this, just put a single open-ended question on your thank you page after an online donation and just ask, why did you choose today to give? Or some more eloquent version of that. But like, why us and why today? And then as you build that data, then just analyze the sentiment, analyze the similarities, and you'll learn a lot about why people choose you as their cause, or where they're, giving you their share of wallet.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that you kind of describe your role currently is as an amplifier. Can you explain like how you would define amplifier and why you think a business or a nonprofit should have that?
So when I was in minor league baseball, I had a somewhat confusing reporting structure. I kind of had 3 different bosses, and many of us have had like maybe confusing reporting structures in our time. One of those, he had a business card where it said his name, and then under his title it said myth. And I always loved that he leaned into the idea of myth. And so I think I try to lean into the idea of being an amplifier. So I am like an Enneagram 3 wing 2. And so I don't know if Enneagrams like are a part of your regular conversation, but it's this balance of being driven and being ambitious while also being a helper, and lifting up those around you. And so, or if you look at Myers-Briggs, like I'm an ENTP, which is known for being both like curious, but then also a little bit combative, or just, someone that likes to argue. And so I've had the benefit of having 2 different CEOs that I have worked very closely with that have allowed me to look at what's happening in the business and then be a tendon between different parts to connect things and draw things together. And so I think about my role as doing just that, like connecting things so that we can amplify them. So Dave, I promised you I would not do all sports things. So sometimes people will ask me what my role is, and I will explain it through the lens of 3 Disney characters. And I didn't prepare this for you. I didn't just like, I need you to understand that. Okay. So the first, and the one that I think is most pressing, like for me, is Jiminy Cricket, as the conscience. And so as an amplifier or a brand champion, I think that you have to set aside your own ego for the good of the entity, the brand that you're amplifying. And that means looking at things both objectively and subjectively and holding them in concert so that you can be a good conscience for the brand. The second character is Edna Mode. And Edna, from The Incredibles, she's the equivalent of, Q from Bond, like being a part of the drivers to help create things to arm people with as they go into the field. And so that's a different role than what Jiminy Cricket plays, right? That it's someone that can help engineer solutions for people that need them. And then the third character that to me exemplifies being an amplifier is the genie from Aladdin, but not in that they grant wishes. It's that there's a moment in Aladdin where the genie sees his role as like ushering in Prince Ali, that he's going to open doors and say, here's this person that can solve your problems. And that welcoming aspect of drawing attention to the people is the third part of amplification, which is different than being a head of marketing, because you are tying pieces together throughout.
Yeah. Thank you for speaking my love language. I deeply appreciate that. But yeah, I loved how you said it at the end there. I mean, it's on one hand, it's, hey, I'm the VP of marketing, or if you're listening to this and you're a business leader or a nonprofit leader, you might be the chief executive, you might be in a communications or marketing or fundraising role. And that idea of being the conscience, let's see if I got this, the conscience for the brand, the person who's creating the solutions, the tools that can be used in the field, and connecting to the people. By the way, all three of those roles, I don't know what the appropriate fiction term is. Those are the sort of the sages, the guides, the people that come alongside. Like, they're not the heroes of the story. They're role in the story. And so I think that's a powerful lesson. Also entertaining. Okay, so one of the questions we always like to ask is if you could give one piece of advice to a nonprofit, what would that be? And then we'll go to our lightning round.
Okay, so I'm going to defer my advice to a quote from Einstein, which I guess if you're going to defer, that's not a bad person to
Smart guy.
defer to. There's a quote from Einstein that I read in the last couple of weeks that I've been kind of hanging on. And it's that we cannot solve problems with the kind of thinking we employed when we came up with them. And again, it's back to the idea of, in so many ways, I think as marketers and as leaders, we either find ourselves right now stuck, or we have a tendency to get stuck. And whether or not that's getting stuck in a problem or around a problem, and you can't get out of a problem if you're stuck in the same mindset of the identification of the problem. And so I think that level of mindset work is so important, especially in heavily turbulent or challenging times, which is where a lot of leaders find themselves right now. And so, constantly inspecting with grace why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And what we could be doing to approach something differently, I think is a valuable framework to bring to the office every day.
So good. So good. The way I always like to think about it is, especially when you need breakthrough innovation, right? It's the reason you need breakthrough innovation, the reason whatever problem you're dealing with is so intractable is because the conventional approaches or the conventional wisdom obviously hasn't worked. Otherwise, it wouldn't be such a big problem or such a big challenge. And so looking outside ourselves, I don't know if it was Einstein that gets credit for that quote about the definition of insanity, of doing the same, thing over and over again and expecting different results. But that's what I hear when you say that, Justin. So that's great advice. Awesome. All right. You ready for a lightning round?
Let's do it. What if I said no?
We'd make you anyways.
Then we would still go to the lightning round.
Yeah.
What's that about being a rebel?
I prefer thunder round. Can we do a thunder round?
Okay, sure. Okay, first question, which by the way, for those who are listening and can't see Justin, he has like a bunch of Grateful Dead posters behind him. So just imagine that for this interview. But first question, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So the first thing that I wanted to be was an animator. I wanted to create cartoons and tell stories. Somewhere along the way, that turned into a writer, and then the DJ turned into sports center anchor, and now I feel like I'm all of those in a way.
Nice, that's a great answer. What about your favorite podcast, not counting your own?
I actually rarely listen to my own podcast. My mom does, and my parents will constantly quiz me about guests. And so I listen to Adam Grant quite a bit. I find his guests and his insights very, very on point. But every single day, there are two podcasts that I listen to on a daily basis. One is First 15, which is a devotional that helps me get myself set in the right frame of reference for the day. And then the second is Up First, which is NPR podcast that gives me a snippet of what's happening in the world. And so I think that you can see the paradox of me even in those two things.
Yeah, that's great. What book are you reading, or maybe just finished?
So I am currently reading a book by Savannah Guthrie, the anchor from the Today Show. Her book that came out in the past year called Mostly What God Does.
Huh. Interesting. I've never heard of that. What about
It's fantastic. It's really good.
What show are you binging on your favorite streaming platform?
Okay, so I mean, when are you going to release this? Like, that changes all the time.
As of this moment,
I love Bad Monkey on Apple TV. Vince Vaughn, and it's like the most triumphant Vince Vaughniness of what you could have in comedic writing, and so have really enjoyed that.
Nice. What app do you use the most?
The Messages app. I am texting all the time. It's my favorite form of communication. And right behind that is probably LinkedIn, but I still use that from a messaging standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, what refreshes and refuels you?
A good run. If I'm stressed, the team knows I'll just be gone for half an hour, 45 minutes, and just go hit the pavement, have some music going in my ears. I'm thinking the whole time, so it's not like it's absent of thinking. But a good run helps me recenter myself and refocus myself in so many ways.
So good. So good. I always love that, hearing everybody's perspective on that. What refreshes and refuels you. So it's good. Well, Justin, thanks for joining us today. It's been a while coming. You and I have talked about this for a while, so super excited to get you on the show. And where can people find you? Where can people listen to you? All the things.
Yeah, so the listen part, should you have space in this crowded podcast landscape, you can search for Arcady Group on the Thinkers podcast, and would love to have folks check that out and give us feedback there. LinkedIn is the easiest way to find me, so Justin McCord, and you'll prepare yourself for lots of musical lyrics and Grateful Dead references and quirky little videos and that sort of thing.
Hey, we've all got our things. And by the way, I'm so grateful that LinkedIn exists, an actual social network for professional purposes. That's not just a place for your resume. So I'm a huge fan.
I saw just yesterday a meme on an Instagram account that I follow where it's kind of a sales memes sort of thing, which I don't know. Maybe there's a therapy sessions especially for that. But anyway, they took and they combined the LinkedIn logo, the IN, with the rest of Instagram, and it was basically in today's social media. And that's, to your point, that's how it's evolved. That we're all kind of blurring these lines that we used to keep siloed, and I'm here for it. I think it's awesome.
That's great. Well, good. Well, thank you again. And for our listeners, I hope you learned something today. I hope you were challenged, your perspective was widened. And until next time, thanks for being with us.
We're grateful for our partners this season, including Virtuous, a software company committed to helping nonprofits grow generosity. Faith Search Partners, an executive search firm specifically for faith-based organizations. And Imago Consulting, an advisory firm that helps nonprofits and businesses grow through innovation. For more episodes, find us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so that you're always up to date. We'd love it if you would rate the show and leave us a review. Your feedback is valuable to us. Follow the show on LinkedIn, or you can reach us at our website at purposeandprofitpodcast.com. You can also sign up for our email newsletter to get updates whenever we launch a new episode. Thanks for listening.